Imagine this. You've spent your entire life being the good one, the one who says yes when you're bone-tired, who smiles through gritted teeth, who keeps the peace even when it costs you your own. You were raised to believe kindness is a virtue, a golden ticket to a life well lived. But what if I told you that kindness, the very thing you've prided yourself on, could be the silent thief stealing your joy, your energy, and the precious years you have left? What if the people you've poured your heart into aren't just ungrateful? They're designed to drain you dry. And here's the kicker. They're not strangers lurking in the shadows. They're the ones you invite to your table, the ones you call family, the ones you've known for decades. Today, we're pulling back the curtain on a truth you might not want to face but can't afford to ignore. As you get older, your time, your energy, your peace, they're not infinite anymore. They're sacred. And yet there are people in your life right now who are taking them from you, piece by piece under the guise of love, loyalty, or obligation. In this video, we're diving deep into 5 types of people you need to stop being kind to, not out of spite, but out of survival. These aren't distant acquaintances or random faces on the street. These are the ones closest to you, the ones whose patterns you've excused for years, maybe decades. By the time we're done, you'll see them for who they are, understand why they're quietly wrecking your emotional health, and, most importantly, learn how to protect yourself without a shred of guilt. Because your later years, they're not for fixing broken people. They're for reclaiming the peace you've earned. So grab a cup of coffee, settle in, and let's get real. You ready? Let's go. Let's start with the first type, the constant taker. You know them. They're the ones who only call when they need something, a ride, a loan, an hour of your time. They'll never return. They don't ask how you're holding up. Don't check in after your doctor's appointment. Don't even send a text on your birthday. But the second they're in a bind, your phone lights up, and you, being the kind soul you are, pick up every single time. Here's why this hits harder as you age. Science backs it up. A 2016 study from the Journal of Gerontology found that older adults who consistently give more emotional or practical support than they receive experience higher levels of stress and burnout. Your body feels it. Elevated cortisol, that stress hormone, starts creeping up. Your mind feels it too. Resentment festers, even if you don't admit it. Think about it. Every time you say yes to a taker, you're handing over a piece of your finite energy. At 30, maybe you could bounce back. At 70 degrees, that recovery's slower. Your tank's not bottomless anymore. Psychologically, this is a trap called the reciprocity norm. We're wired to expect give and take in relationships. When it's all give and no take, your brain registers a betrayal, even if it's subtle. Over time, that imbalance chips away at your self-worth. You start wondering, am I only valuable when I'm useful? The answer's no, but takers don't care. They thrive on your generosity because they've learned you won't say no. And the older you get, the more dangerous this becomes. Why? Because time isn't just money now. It's life. Every hour you spend on them is an hour you don't spend on yourself or someone who actually sees you. So what do? Set the boundary. Say no. No explanation needed. Research from the American Psychological Association shows that older adults who prioritize their own needs over excessive caregiving report better mental health and lower rates of depression. You're not selfish, you're surviving. And if they walk away when the free ride stops, good riddance. That's proof they never loved you. They loved your convenience. Your kindness isn't a buffet. Stop serving it to people who never bring a dish to the table. Hey, if this is hitting home, drop a number 1 in the comments. I'd love to know you're with me on this journey. Let's keep going. Next up, the chronic critic. These people don't scream or throw punches. No, their weapon's quieter, sharp little jabs disguised as honesty. You sure you want to wear that? Why'd you bother starting that hobby now? You've always been too sensitive. They don't just point out flaws, they make you feel like you are the flaw. And over time, that steady drip of judgment erodes something vital, your trust in yourself. Science explains why this stings so bad. A 2018 study in Personality and Social Psychology Bulletin found that repeated criticism triggers the brain's threat response, Same as physical danger. Your amygdala lights up, pumping stress hormones, making you feel small, unsafe, unworthy. For older adults, this is a double whammy. As we age, our self-esteem becomes more fragile, according to the Journal of Aging studies. You've spent decades building a life, surviving losses, earning scars. Then someone strolls in and picks it apart like it's nothing. That's not feedback. That's sabotage. Here's the psychology behind it. Critics often project their own insecurities. They can't handle your confidence, your quirks, your refusal to shrink, so they chip away until you fit their mold. And because they cloak it as concern, you second-guess yourself. Maybe they're right. Maybe I am too old for this. Spoiler, they're not, and you're not. But the longer you let them in, the more you shrink. You stop trying new things. You stop sharing your wins. You brace for the next dig before they even open their mouth. At this stage of life, you've earned the right to feel good in your own skin. You don't need to audition for approval. Studies from the National Institute on Aging show that protecting your emotional space from negativity boosts longevity, fewer stress-related illnesses, better sleep, stronger immunity. So next time they lob a critique your way, don't smile and nod. Step back. Limit their access. You're not here to be their punching bag. You're here to live. Kindness doesn't mean absorbing abuse, no matter how helpful they claim it is. If this one's resonating, type number 2 in the comments. Let's talk about it. Onward. Now let's tackle the guilt tripper. These are the masters of making you feel like the bad guy, even when you've done nothing wrong. They don't argue, they sigh. They don't demand. They drop hints like, I just thought you'd be there for me. Suddenly you're drowning in shame, questioning if you're selfish for daring to say no. Sound familiar? Here's the science. Guilt is a psychological weapon. A 2020 study in emotion found that guilt tripping activates the brain's pain centers, same as a physical ache. For older adults, this is brutal. Your emotional resilience isn't what it used to be. Decades of caregiving, sacrificing, surviving have worn it thin. Guilt trippers know this. They weaponize your empathy, your loyalty, your fear of being that person who lets people down. And they're good at it, subtle enough to dodge blame, heavy enough to keep you hooked. Psychologically, this is called emotional manipulation. They thrive on your need to feel needed, twisting your kindness into a debt you never signed up for. Over time, you're not just tired, you're exhausted. You apologize for things that aren't your fault. You over-explain every boundary. You give more than you can afford just to avoid that cold, silent treatment. Research from the Journal of Family Psychology shows this pattern spikes anxiety in older adults, especially when it's family pulling the strings. Why? Because you're conditioned to believe family gets a free pass. They don't. Here's the truth. You don't owe anyone your peace. Not your niece, not your neighbor, not your oldest friend. A 2019 study from Psychology and Aging found that seniors who cut ties with manipulative relationships reported a 40% drop in stress levels within 6 months. That's real. You're not cruel for pulling back. You're reclaiming what's yours. Next time they try to guilt you, don't bend. Step away. Let their silence be their problem. Your heart's not a doormat, and your later years aren't a guilt tax. If this one's striking a chord, comment number 3 below. I'd love to hear your thoughts. Let's move on. Number 4, the secret competitor. These folks don't look like enemies. They smile, they clap, they say all the right things. But underneath, they're keeping score. Every time you share a win, they've got a better story. Every time you shine, they nudge you back into the shadows. Oh, you started painting? Nice. I've been doing it for years, got a piece in a gallery once. It's not support, it's sabotage. Psychologically, this is rooted in social comparison theory. A 2017 study in social psychological and personality science found that constant comparison triggers envy, especially in close relationships. For older adults, this cuts deep. You're already wrestling with society telling you your best days are behind you. Then someone you trust turns your victories into their stage. Over time, it's not just annoying, it's crushing. You stop celebrating yourself. You dim your light so they don't feel threatened. That's not friendship. That's a rivalry in disguise. Science shows why this matters. Positive social bonds boost mental health in seniors, per the American Journal of Public Health. But competitive dynamics? They spike cortisol, kill confidence, and leave you isolated. These people don't want you to thrive. They want you to stay small so they feel big. And at this age, you've got no time for that. You've survived too much to waste energy on someone who only cheers when they're winning. What's the fix? Distance? Surround yourself with people who lift you up, not pull you down. A 2021 study from the gerontologist found that seniors with supportive networks live longer and happier. Fact. You deserve to shine without apology. If they can't handle your light, they don't belong in your glow. If this one's landing, drop number 4 in the comments. Let me know you're still with me. One more to go. Finally, number 5, the passive-aggressive manipulator. These are the sneakiest of all. They don't yell. They smirk. They don't confront. They sulk. Oh, you're too busy for me. No worries, I'll manage. It's a dig wrapped in a smile, and it leaves you questioning yourself. Did I overreact? Are they mad? You're left spinning while they play innocent. Science calls this covert aggression. A 2019 study in Clinical Psychology Review found it's more stressful than outright conflict because it's ambiguous. Your brain can't process it cleanly, so it loops. For older adults, this is a nightmare. Your emotional bandwidth's narrower now. Decades of life have used it up. Walking on eggshells with someone who won't say what they mean? That's not quirky, it's exhausting. Psychologically, they're dodging accountability. They want control without the blame, and you're the collateral damage. Over time, you silence yourself just to keep the peace, a peace that's fake anyway. Research from Aging and Mental Health shows this dynamic doubles anxiety rates in seniors. Why stick around for that? Here's the move. Don't engage. Don't decode their games. Step back and let them stew. Your peace is non-negotiable now. Studies link emotional calm to better heart health in older age, per the Journal of the American Geriatric Society. You've lived too long for counterfeit kindness. Surround yourself with people who say what they mean and mean what they say. Anything less is noise. If this one's speaking to you, comment number 5 below. Let's wrap this up. So here we are. 5 types of people: the constant taker, the chronic critic, the guilt tripper, the secret competitor, the passive-aggressive manipulator. They've been sitting too close, taking too much for too long. But here's the thing. You don't have to keep letting them. Your later years aren't about enduring toxic patterns. They're about breaking them. You've carried enough, forgiven enough, silenced yourself enough. Now, it's time to protect what's yours. Take a second. Who in your life fits these molds? Who's draining you while you smile through it? You don't need to fix them. You need to free yourself. Studies across the board, from Psychology Today to The Lancet, show that shedding toxic ties in older age slashes stress, boosts happiness, even adds years. That's not theory. That's your life. So here's your homework. Reflect. Write down one person you're ready to set boundaries with. Then do it. No guilt, no apologies. Your kindness is a gift, not a chain. And if this video sparks something in you, don't let it fade. Drop a comment below. Tell me one thing you're taking away and how you'll use it. I read every single one, and it keeps me going. If you found this helpful, hit that like button, subscribe, and ring the bell. We've got more coming to help you thrive, not just survive. Share this with someone who needs it. Let's keep this conversation alive. Thanks for being here. See you in the next one.